Hello and welcome to God's Glory and Men's Real Stories. I am your host, Robert Moore. So glad you guys could tune in today. Look forward to this episode. But more importantly, I look forward to you guys being able to sit back and enjoy yourself, kick up your feet, welcome yourself to our circle of men and women to enjoy this episode. But the most important thing is that I hope that you can not only feel God's love, but see God's glory in Men's Real Stories. All right. So cool. Today on today's episode, I have a guest that it's funny. When I first met this guy, I knew immediately after we started talking that we were going to hit it off well. And more importantly, I hate to meet people and say, man, you should really come on my podcast. But that was probably one of the first few things I said. I was like, dude, I got a podcast I'm starting. And man, it would be awesome. And it's funny because we sat down one night for dinner. And I'm like, why do I not have cameras with me? Like what we just did, we just made magic. But of course, I feel that we're probably gonna make the same magic again today, and maybe in future episodes. So I'm happy to welcome him to the Man's Cave. My good friend, and more importantly, let me tell the story of how I met him. So I met him at a Love Week event for our church. He was hosting the event, and I brought my kids. It was at Beds for Kids. And that day it was out in the warehouse. And of course, if I look back at a lot of the different things that I had chosen to serve at for Love Week, I probably would have chose more things with air condition. But this was a good start to that week in that, we were out in this hot warehouse, but we had a lot of fun. And it was more importantly a humbling experience to recognize there are so many families in our community in the Charlotte area that don't have furniture at all. I mean, like you think just beds, but I'm talking about living rooms. I'm talking about kitchen, dining room tables. I'm talking about nothing in the houses at all. And this organization goes out and they put furniture in people's houses, from a bed for the children, but also a bed for the parents, a living room, a dining room that they could all sit around and eat. So it was an awesome organization to go out and volunteer at, and they're always looking for volunteers. So I guess that was a shameless plug for them. But it was a great opportunity for me and my kids to go and enjoy ourselves and serve that particular organization. And that's where I met the gentleman that came on today to talk to me. And we got to talking, like I said, and at that moment I just knew I knew it was supposed to happen. So I want to welcome Kitab Tisdale today. Did I get that right?
You got it.
Awesome. So glad to have you here today, man.
It's good to be here.
Yes, sir. Well, cool. Well, let's go ahead and start it off like I normally start it off, and I'll let you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
A little about me.
Yeah.
So I'm a Jersey boy. Born and raised, for the most part. Pretty new to Charlotte. I've only been here for a few months, but yeah, I like what I see. I like the city. It's growing on me more and more. So, you came down from Jersey and you're here in Charlotte, and we were talking about how the change can be so drastic from just getting used to the Southern hospitality of the Carolinas, aside from what it's like up north, where, it's, a lot of people, I tell people, it's almost like choosing the college you go to. Sometimes I've been on some college campuses where I will walk around and people will smile at you and they'll greet you, even if they're not speaking to you, but it's almost like they greet you with their eyes, Right. And then there's some college campuses where it's like nobody even looks up. Mm-hmm. You're all walking in a particular direction to a class. I've been to colleges like that where I've taken classes and I'm just like, wow, it's like nobody here wants to talk. I mean, and I've always heard that about the North, and I experienced it, myself when I finally went up there, where it's like everybody is just moving somewhere. Nobody has time to speak. Nobody has time to greet. I mean, there's no greeting with eyes. It's almost like if I catch your eye contact, at that point, I'm up to something, and I don't want any problems. I'm sorry. I'm so used to the South where we make eye contact, we smile, we greet each other, even if I don't say a thing. So yeah, that's definitely something I had to get used to.
Okay, right. I mean, I'll tell you this. What was it like? What was like the culture shock going from there to here? What were some of the biggest things it took to get used to?
Number one on my list would be, so when I first got here, it was about 2 a.m. And I said, okay, I'm going to go and grab something to eat really quick. Then I'll come back to the house, relax. Not a single place was open. Everywhere was shut down. And that I'm not used to.
Yeah.
New York, New Jersey, everything's open. till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, if not 24 hours. So you can always go and get you a pastrami and cheese.
Right. No. Understand. We're trying to keep you healthy around here. At that time, the way we look at it is you probably shouldn't be eating. So if you didn't eat beforehand, oh no, it's not gonna happen for you. Hopefully you got groceries. That's what the refrigerator is for.
Yeah, definitely a culture shock.
Well, I'll put it this way. If you haven't heard about it or if you haven't experienced it, if you're ever hungry at 2 or 3 in the morning, you normally only have one or two choices. You have a 24/7 McDonald's if you can find one, and I can't promise you the food's going to be good. You're probably going to get the worst service. They are probably not going to like you at all, and they're probably going to give you 5 items. You're going to look at that whole menu. By the way, there's only 3 items that we got available right now. Or you can go to Cookout. Now, if you haven't been to okay, all right. I'm gonna judge from the look on your face. You've experienced Cookout. Now, look, I said food. I didn't say it was going to be the best thing for your body. Sometimes, some of Cookout's food, it wants a fast entry and a fast exit. I mean, it does something for everybody. I can't tell you that it's the best food, but it is food. And I as a college kid or even right after college, Cookout was like the thing, or Waffle House. I'm sorry, I forgot about Waffle House.
Don't forget Waffle House.
Waffle House. Listen, I love Waffle House, especially back in the days when I was falling out of some place and coming out of some place, whether it was a bar or wherever, and it was like, who's hungry? We all knew where we were going. If somebody said who's hungry, we knew where we were going. We were going to Waffle House.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, okay. Well, that yes, you're right. That is a big culture shock. What else? I mean, like, what else would you say was probably a huge one?
Let's see. Probably like you mentioned, that Southern hospitality. Nobody speaks in Jersey.
Okay.
Or New York. No, we're all walking down the street, different directions. We're gonna bump shoulders. I'm still not gonna look up.
Okay. All right.
We don't greet the same way. And so when I got here, everybody was so polite. Hey, how you doing?
Right.
How's your day? I don't like what you mean. What you mean how my day?
Yeah, how's your day? We want to know how your day is, bro. Like tell me all about it. You know what I'm saying? What's wrong with you? You ain't got nobody else to talk. What do you mean how my day is? You don't got nobody. Yeah. We want to know how your day is.
Yeah. I remember walking around my neighborhood. I went for a little walk, and somebody from the neighborhood was driving by, and they blew the horn and they waved, and I didn't wave because I didn't know them.
Right, because they coming back to get you later on. They just want to see how soft you were. That's why they waved at you. Yeah, he waved back. We're coming back. We're rolling the block later on him. No, I can't let them see that I'm soft. I got to be hard. No, we don't wave up north. No.
You going to get this head? Nah.
Right, the slow one too. Like, yeah. Oh, and they probably looking in their rear view like, yeah, he from the north. Look at him. He don't even know how to greet people yet.
Yeah. But it was so interesting because I met so many people from New York and New Jersey. And I mean, from within blocks of where I live.
Right.
You know? So there are a lot of transplants that come down this way. And I think that's part of what keeps me from feeling so homesick.
Okay.
You know? Can't get away from y'all.
Right. Oh yeah, they came here. They don't even. And look, they don't even act like they used to up there anymore. They're like, hey, look, relax, bro, relax. You don't have to be so hard. Don't worry. These people are really nice. And I know that it seems weird, but just relax. You ain't got to be like that. And he's like, how long you been here? Look, we left. We didn't tell anybody we were leaving, but we were gone. We never went back home.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Literally.
No. And trust me, Charlotte has changed. I mean, it used to be nothing but locals, but now I'm the oddball. Like I tell people I'm from here, and they're like, "Wait, like from here? Like you've been here all your life?" Yeah, it's not. We don't meet a lot of you. Yeah, there's a lot of me. I know where they live right over.
They don't come outside.
Well, I don't know what to say. It's always weird when people tell me I'm rare, and I'm like, no, you're rare. I'm from here. You're the rare one. But no, that's really cool. Yeah. So tell the listeners, who are you? Tell the listeners a little bit of, and I know you gave your quick bio, but like, what you know, and I know I love jumping into people's stories. You know, that's what this podcast is all about. But like, what brought you here? What made you decide to make that life change? You know, I'll let you jump into that.
So let's see. Who am I? I think it's a little easier to tell you what I do first. I am a modern day Renaissance man.
Okay.
You name it, I can do it.
Oh, I know that's right.
Jack of all trades.
Okay.
Master of all trades.
Nice.
Everything from construction to teaching and my absolute favorite, cooking. So I am a chef. I owned a restaurant in New Jersey prior to moving here to Charlotte. So what brought me to Charlotte?
Right.
Ultimately?
Right.
A divorce.
Okay.
My ex-wife and I decided that we did not want to pursue the marriage anymore.
Okay.
For various reasons. But I was ready for a new start. I wanted something fresh. And I remember sitting at my computer and God said, Charlotte. And I said, nah.
South?
Nah. And so I remember he said it again. And I said, okay, God, I'm going to give you some time to think about this. Because
you want to give him some time to think about it?
God some time to think about
it. All right.
Because I'm not going to Charlotte. I'm not.
So where were you considering? Like, what was on your bucket list? Like, okay,
I knew that
this
I
is
was
my plan, God.
Moving out of the house.
Okay.
But I thought I was going to stay in Jersey.
Okay.
You know,
okay.
somewhere in
Right.
Jersey. And over the course of, say, the next week or so, God just kept dropping these confirmations. So a gentleman that I went to church with years ago pops into my restaurant. And I didn't know it was him because I hadn't seen him in quite a few years. But I'm looking at him like, this guy looks familiar. And he said the same thing. He said, I know you. And I said, yeah, you go to Abundant. And he was like, well, I used to, but me and my wife relocated. I said, oh, okay. Where'd you guys move to? Carolina.
Come on.
Yeah. So he says, I didn't know you owned this place. My sister lives around the corner. I just figured I'd stop in, grab a menu, and grab a bite to eat. So that was the first thing. A couple of days later, I'm driving, doing my inventory runs, and one of my guys from the restaurant calls me, and he says, hey, there's a lady here who says she's one of your former colleagues, and she's going to stay put until you get here. So I said, okay, I'll be there in a couple of minutes. I walk in. It's a lady that worked for the Board of Education with me.
Okay.
And her name is Caroline.
Caroline.
I hadn't seen her in at least a decade. And I said, okay, God, like I hear you. Like,
sweet Caroline. Look at that, how she just shows up.
I was on the phone with a really, really good friend of mine from college who's more like a sister. And so we're talking about the divorce, and she says, what about Charlotte? And I said, I kind of heard that. I said, but I wasn't ready.
Right.
So she says, she and her husband are like, come down to Charlotte, come check it out, see what you think. And a couple of weeks later, I was here, and I'm still here.
Right.
So yeah.
Welcome to the Carolina. Hey, look, man. Look. Think about it. We would not be sitting at this table right now if it hadn't been for you saying yes. I mean, think about it. And I was just telling somebody today, I said, there is so many blessings in yes sometimes.
Oh, man.
Think about it. I mean, like in just a simple yes, in a simple move of, you know what? All right. Sure. Let's see what happens. You know,
Yeah.
even if you're a little on the fence about it, sometimes you never know what's going to happen in a simple out. You know what? I'm tired of getting these little drops of like coincidence where it's like, yeah, all right, I've heard this a couple times, so clearly Carolina is calling out to me.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how it's doing it, and it's funny because our plans are sometimes stuck on, well, I'm here, this is working, I know it, and more importantly, I'm comfortable here.
Yeah.
I know it here. I mean when you're comfortable someplace, I can't help but always think about how like it takes us leaving what we're comfortable with to sometimes experience what's meant for us, where our plans are, where our callings are, where our purpose is and stuff. So yeah, no, I'm glad you made it. So with making that move to Charlotte and all, just tell me more about how things just continue to progress and all.
Well, when I got here, it was kind of like, not kind of, I was starting all over.
Okay.
From scratch with everything. I had to buy salt. Like, I had nothing.
You had to buy salt?
I had to buy salt.
Okay, there's a lot of things normally when I think to buy something, salt is like somewhere low on the list. Yeah. Like, you know, but okay, you had to buy salt. All right.
Because I got rid of my vehicle, which was a lease, so got rid of that before I came. I rented a car. I only filled the car up with what could fit. Everything else I got rid of. And that was it. So I really had nothing when I came down there.
What was that? I mean, I'm sure that feeling of just like, all right, like we're just I'm gonna get rid of everything and just see what happens. I mean, like what was that? What was that feeling like?
It's scary. It's a scary feeling. It's humbling, and it puts you in a place where it's total dependency on God, you know. And there's something about that feeling that is scary, but at the same time reassuring, because you know that wherever we go from here, you're going with God, you know.
Right.
And it's such a good feeling to know that at your lowest point, like he still got you.
Right.
Know? And you know, I had the real talk to drive down here, you know, a couple of times I was like, what if I just ease the steering wheel over to the left in front of this truck that's coming towards me, you know, because I had so many different emotions going on. You know, I'm thinking about the divorce. I'm nervous because I'm moving to a city that I know absolutely nothing about, you know.
Right.
I don't have anything to call my home. I'm just here, you know. So I felt like a nomad, you know. But God would still speak that whole ride, you know. I'm just hearing His voice, and it gave comfort, you know. And I think it's a beautiful thing to find comfort at your lowest point, you know.
Right.
But yeah, so that's how I felt about the whole thing. And, you know, little by little, God just started putting things in place and putting people in my path. You know, I would always pray, you know, before I left out of the house, like, okay, God, let me come in contact with the right people today.
Right.
You know, and so a lot of those people, you know, I met when I started going to Elevation Church. And I didn't realize how important it was for me to have that sense of community, you know. And so I actually started watching Elevation services before I even came to Charlotte. Had no idea that Elevation was based out of Charlotte.
Okay.
You know.
Right.
A friend of mine says, "Oh, Elevation is just a few minutes from where I live." So I was like, "Oh, word!
Get out of here!" Right? Yeah.
So every Sunday morning, I would watch Elevation services before my church services started, and so then I joined the E group.
Okay.
And the men's group, and the brothers in that call, we would meet every Monday morning at 6 a.m. or 7. One of those.
Right. No, that sounds about right. Because when I started looking at them in the beginning, it was like, you choose 6 or 7. How early do you want to get up? But it's not that far of a distance.
Yeah.
But no. It's honestly a really good wake up morning.
Yeah, it is.
It starts your morning right.
Man, I felt so good. The first couple of episodes, the first couple of
You're right. First couple of meetings, Zoom calls, right?
I didn't say much, because in my head, I'm the only one going through a divorce. It's going to be embarrassing. I don't want to talk about that.
Right.
And I started hearing the brothers tell their stories, about different things that they're experiencing and going through. And then one day, I shared my story, and the way they embraced me, it was overwhelming. I'm
just curious. So I'm curious because I hear that a lot, and you say the way they embraced you, and normally I remember when I was kind of going through a down place in my life. I was definitely in darkness, and I remember my first visit to Elevation, and I remember the first thought was that, like, second I stepped foot here. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was supposed to be here, like people were happy I was here. And you know how sometimes you've been to church before and everybody's just making their way in and it's like everybody's minding their own business.
Right.
There's nobody there that says, I'm excited you're here today.
No,
I'm happy you're here
today.
It's
a routine.
Right. 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 No, very much so. I mean, like where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go in here and see if I feel better.
Right.
But it's almost like, I'm sure you've experienced this, where it's almost like you feel better from the second you get out your car because somebody's there almost to greet you. And it's the same person that just kind of pointed you into the parking spot. Hey, look, happy to have you today. Whether it's an embrace, handshake, hug, whatever, it was just like, this is different.
It's different.
And then I walked into the building.
Right.
And the praise and worship started. And I was like, whoa.
It's real different.
What's going on here? All right. Like, I'm coming from AME Zion, non-denominational. Is that smoke pouring off the stage? I think that's the first question we got. That smoke pouring? Hey, look, is that supposed to happen? And from there, it's just like it's a life-changing experience.
It is. And I can tell you about my first actual interaction in person with Elevation Church. So I'm trying to sleep, and it was just an unsuccessful night. I was just up. Right. And then finally, I think I dozed off for a couple of seconds. But in those couple of seconds, God spoke to me. And he said, in the dream, I was standing outside of Elevation. Mm-hmm. And I was the only one there. Not a single car. Nothing. I'm just standing outside. And so I woke up. And the Holy Spirit said, be there tomorrow at 10:29. That was the exact time, 10:29 a.m. And so
he didn't want to round up. Okay.
And so the next morning, I get in the car. I'm driving to Elevation Church. And in my head.
No, wait. This is what day is this?
So this is a Saturday.
Okay. All right.
This is on a Saturday.
Okay, because I'm like, wait.
Which is why it was so bizarre.
Okay.
So I'm like, God, ain't nobody going to be there on no Saturday. You didn't see the schedule?
Right. Because that's what I was just thinking. I'm thinking the schedule. So I'm like, you a little early, but
Ain't nobody going to be there on no Saturday.
Right.
And so I'm like, if I didn't hear you clearly, and this was just in my head, then we need to work on some fine tuning with these ears. And so I get there. Lo and behold, 2 cars in the parking lot. So I park right next to the cars. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at the doors, and I'm looking at the clock. And I got there a little early, so I had some time to kill. 10:29 exactly. The front panels on the church start to vibrate, the glass panels.
Right.
And at first I thought, oh, it must be pretty windy out there. It's blowing the glass. But at that exact moment, 2 ladies walked out. And so I get out the car. And I get out the car. Now, mind you, I'm a Jersey boy.
I was just about to say, wait a minute, man. This is against all your rules,
right.
man.
Like, I'm a Jersey boy.
Good thing they're not Jersey women.
Right, exactly. So these two women are coming towards me. And so now I gotta defuse the situation before there is a situation.
Right.
So I said, please don't think I'm crazy. It was two white ladies.
Right.
I said, please don't think I'm crazy.
Yeah, because you are. You're looking a little crazy
right now.
I look
a little crazy.
Right.
But don't think I'm crazy. And she says, you're not crazy. And I said, okay. So I said, I don't know why, but God told me to be here today at 10:29 exactly. And that's exactly what time you walked out the door. And she says, okay. And she comes and she gives me a hug. And mind you, I'm already emotional. I'm only a couple of days in to being in Charlotte. The divorce is still very fresh.
Right.
So she says, this is where you're supposed to be. And she hugs me. And everything that was pent up over the past few months of dealing with, the separation and selling my restaurant and moving down here, all of it came out at one time. And to have somebody embrace you in that moment was major for me.
Right.
It was so necessary in that moment.
Right.
And so now I'm snotting and I'm crying.
Been there.
And the lady was shorter than me, so it was probably dripping all in her hair. And so I said, okay, I'm here, but why? I don't know why. And she says, well, by chance, do you want to get baptized? And I said, oh, man. In my head, I'm like, I was already baptized when I was a kid. The Holy Spirit said, yeah, but your understanding is different now. You need to do this again. And so I said to her, I guess I do. So that next day, I got baptized.
Wow.
And she says, well, that's why we're here.
Awesome.
She says, we were in here just now filling up the baptism pool for tomorrow.
Wow. That's awesome.
Had I rounded up and got there at 10:30, I would have missed her. And this is why it's so important to be in tune with God and listen and follow his instructions to the T.
Because think about it. I mean, if God wouldn't mind me being late. I'll get there at 10:32.
Yeah.
And that whole situation would have been a completely different situation.
Oh, if I would have stopped and got those 2 breakfast burritos from McDonald's,
you were considering, weren't you?
Because they ate different in the morning with the cheese. Yeah. So yeah, it would have been a completely different situation.
Right.
And so I got baptized on December 12th, 2021. 12/12/21.
Wow.
And so that's when my life changed. Again.
Okay.
Again.
So I'm just curious. Now, you talked about how, like, even with that embrace that you had when you were there at the church, it almost felt like it just everything that was pent up, everything that you had been holding on to since you had left Jersey just kind of came flooding out. Now I guess my thing is that as men, as women, as human beings, sometimes we carry so much and we carry it. And it stays pent up in us, almost like a bottle in a car that's full in a hot day.
Right.
And sometimes it takes moments like that where, we need moments where we can just finally set all of that down.
Yeah.
And just in that moment, it's like, how did you know that I needed to be embraced? But it's crazy because I have been in situations where it's like you need God's comfort, you need his love, you need his embrace, and he will use people, he will bring people around you to be his hands.
Yeah.
And his comfort, provide that so that you can find that moment where you're just like, dude, Man, this has been rough. I've been carrying this, man, and I needed this, God. I needed you to meet me here right now because, like you knew.
It was like, do you remember the Patrick Ewing sneakers?
Oh yes,
right?
The pumps.
You can pump them up.
Okay, so wait, were those Patrick?
Were they Ewings?
Yes, they were Ewings.
Okay.
They were Ewings. Yes.
So you pump them up.
Yep.
And then they had the little button built in the tongue.
Release
and you could release
the air. Yes.
That's what that embrace was like. I had all of this stuff pent up, and the pressure was so much. So it was twofold. I believe God meant for that embrace to, number one, be a support, and number two, to be a release. Because that next day I was moving into a whole new chapter in my life.
Right.
I could not go into that chapter with all of that pressure.
Right. Ooh, that's good.
And so he needed to send somebody that could, number one, stand in as a pillar to hold me up in that moment. And number two, take out all of that pressure, all of that stuff that was weighing on me, all of those emotions. You know, I was able to just get it out and not feel judged. You know, I hadn't even told her my name, but she told me that I was here because I'm supposed to be. And those words touched so many different areas, you know, from dealing with rejection as a child, you know, to having suicidal thoughts,
right,
you know, and not being sure about my purpose,
right,
and not being sure about life in general, like what is going on. Just those words, "You're here because you're supposed to be," did not just mean in the parking lot at that moment. That was for life in general.
right.
You know, and God knew exactly what I needed to hear in that moment. And that's what he said.
Man, that's powerful because I can dig that. Yeah, wow.
It's
And it's wild how he will do that. He knows exactly when you're at that breaking point. He knows when you're seeking him, when you're searching for him, and you in that moment. It's funny how he'll bring people around you because you were even telling me a story that reminded me of a story about mine. You got to tell that story about even when you were trying to get a ride, get transportation one time to the church because I've learned that as men sometimes we leave it upon ourselves to like feel like if I can't do it, nobody can do it. It's got to be on my own strength. And if I can't figure this out and muscle through this and push through this, then it's just not going to happen. Yeah. And sometimes we'll look at things like there was an example where one time my car broke down, and I remember thinking, I'm out of choices. I don't know what else to do. I'm stuck here. I literally made it to a gas station for my car to break down, and I'm talking about the battery was completely dead. And I remember God brought people around me, and I bet you to this day they couldn't tell you why, but they were just there. Yeah, they were there because they were instructed to be, and not like, hey, look, I was told to come here. No, they were just they just happened to be there, and they were like, hey, look, you look like you need some help. Did you? And I even had a lady sitting behind me in her car. Now I'm at a gas pump where you've been to a QT before. Yeah. There's like 100 pumps. Right. So there's no need for you to sit behind. But even in that moment, it was just like she stayed back there as I pumped my gas, and I'm thinking, all right, let me just hurry up. And eventually I went to go turn my car over, and the car didn't crank. And I was thinking, no, don't do this right now. Come on, don't do this right now. This is embarrassing. And so I tried a couple times. And so at this point, I grabbed my little slow charger because I was worried about this. I kept a slow charger, almost like one of those little hot jacks where you can just put it on your charger and just hit jolts with it. And so I hooked those up, and I let it sit there. And I went and I tried it again, and nothing. And I'm like, yo, come on, God help me right now. And I'm like, because I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I stepped out of my car, and the person behind me that was still there waiting, because at this point, I'm like, there's available pumps over there. At that point, that person was like, you need a jump? Yeah. Yes, I do. I actually do. I could use a jump. Okay, well, I'll pull around. And I'm like, okay. And so she pulled around, and I remember thinking, okay, this is interesting, because first off, I'm a guy, and you're a female with a daughter in the back seat by yourself, and so normally from a safety situation, this is probably not the safest thing. Yeah. I why would you do this? So at that point, she let me know, well, I got jumper cables in the back. I've never used them before. She was like, so I don't know how to use them. No problem. I hooked them up to her car, hooked them up to my car. At that point, we're sitting there, and while I'm waiting for Juice to run over, we're talking, and I'm like, I really appreciate it. I don't know what made you stay back behind me, but I really appreciate you being here, because I don't know who I would have called or what I would have done in this moment. And this is one of those moments where normally I got a plan, and I got a plan for that, but at that moment I had no plan. Yeah. I didn't know what I was gonna do. And at that moment, even when she was helping me charge my battery, somebody pulled up next to us, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I like your car. I got a car kind of like that." And we were kind of talking. It was like a three-way talk. And eventually, as I'm sitting there, charging the car, I'm noticing that it still won't crank. And I'm like, okay, my battery must be completely dead. So at this point, I'm thinking, maybe I'll just call a tow truck. I don't know. And the guy's like, well, look, I'll just take my battery out of my car. And at first, it's funny because he said, look, I'll run down the road and grab you a battery. Now I'm from Charlotte. Now, if I was from Jersey, I'd have been like, no. Or more importantly, like, you want my money so you can run and just be gone with it. But I'm still from Charlotte, so don't think that we're super trusting around here. Like, so I'm like, I would hate for you to worry yourself that much. I mean, I don't know you, you don't know me, I don't know any of you guys, but I appreciate you all being here. And so at that point, he's like, well, no, look, how about this? I'll just take the battery out of my car and come over and get your car started. Now, I didn't even know that was possible, by the way. I didn't know that you could take your battery, hook it up to another car, and it start. But then as I started thinking, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, as long as the alternator's good, the battery will get it started. So sure enough, he took his battery out of his car, came over, hooked it up to my car, and then at that point, he was like, look, literally, it started up. And once he got my car started, he's like, well, look, the alternator looks to be good, but if it goes out again, I'll be riding up and down this road. But there's an Advance Auto right up the road. Sure enough, Advance Auto closed at 9. I got there at 8:53. Listen to me. They put a battery. They sold me a battery. They put the battery in my car, even though they were closing and they were busy. They came out and put the battery in my car. Listen to me. Man, you talking about crying on the way home, because it was the most humbling moment to realize that, like, I was stuck. Yeah. I didn't know where I was gonna go. I didn't know how this was gonna work, but I was stuck. I was trying to consider what tow company would come and tow me, where it would tow me. I had no answers. But what he let me know in that moment was like, look, you fall back, and sometimes it's not going to always be based on your strength and what you got and what your plan is, because you're not going to always have a plan. Right. So let me show you how I can show out in your life and show you what my strength's like. Because I'll make people come around you that won't understand why they're sitting behind you, why they just happen to come get gas, and I'll allow them to show you love, the same love that I'm showing you, even if they don't know me, even if they're not walking with me, because that's the type of power I have to bring people around you and take care of you in moments where you have no answers. And
let the ravens feed you.
Listen to me. That was mind blowing. Wow. Mind blowing.
So the story that you're referring to, it was a Sunday morning, and I wanted to go to church. But remember, I told you I rented a car when I came down here. So now it was time to turn that car in. Right. And so I turned the car in. Now I don't have any way to get around. Okay. So I'm sitting there at the house. I'm like, God, I really want to go to church today, And so I looked at my phone, and I was going to request a Lyft. And it said $90 one way. And I was like, God, like, wow. Like,
church.
you know where my finances are right now, I need to be smart about this. And God said, I don't need you to be smart. I need you to be faithful. And I said, okay. I'm going to go ahead and pay this 90. But you're going to have to look me out the rest of the week. And so I go and I get in the shower, right? Come back, I'm going to get dressed. Now, I hadn't actually requested the ride yet because it said only about 5 minutes away. So I said, okay, let me take a shower, get dressed first, then I'll request the ride. Get out the shower, get dressed, go to request the ride. The price said $30. And I was like,
it's more than 50% off.
Oh, yes, come
right now.
Get dressed, and I get in the car, and the young lady that picked me up starts having a conversation with me, and she asked me what my name meant, and I told her, and by this time it starts pouring down raining, and we're just pulling into the church parking lot, and she says, "What time is your service over?" And I said, no. She said, "What time does it start?" I said, "It starts about 9:30. She says, "Okay, I'll come and pick you up afterwards, and I'll take you home." I said, "Okay, yeah, I'll request a ride when service is over, and if you're in the area, that'll be great." And she says, "No, I'm going to go across the street, and I'm going to go grab some breakfast over at IHOP, and I'll just wait for your text." And I was like, "You're going to wait all service?" So she says, "Yeah, just text me and I'll come get you. I'll take you home for free." I said, "You going to do that?" So she says, "Yeah."
They don't act like this in Jersey.
They don't. You're going to have me somewhere behind a warehouse.
Right.
So, knocked upside the head.
Right.
But, so all service, I'm thinking about this. And I run into some of the guys from the men's group, and I'm telling them this, and they're like, "I forgot this part." They're like, "Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing."
Right.
And so randomly I get a text, or a notification rather, and I check. And one of the guys sent me $30, which was what I paid to get there.
Wow.
And I said to him, "You didn't have to do that." And he says, "I know, but this is what God told me to do."
Wow.
So,
Wow.
what ended up potentially costing me $180 because it was going to be a round trip.
Right.
Cost me absolutely nothing. Because God said, I want you to be faithful.
Wow.
And so the lady takes me home. And she says, "You know what? I pick up a mother and her son that live just a couple of blocks from here. And I take them to karate practice. If you need to get around, give me a call. And if I'm in the area, I'll come grab you and I'll take you wherever you need to go." She said, "Because I enjoyed our conversation so much." I said, "Wow."
That's
Okay. I'm never moving back to Jersey.
Never. Look, I don't know why you thought you were going back. I mean, listen to me. We have a way down here in the South of making sure you don't ever want to go back. If you did statistics on how many people move down here, even just visit for too long down here, they're not going back. And half the time they don't know it. They might even come for vacation. Yeah. No. They come for vacation and never make it back home. Yeah, it just doesn't normally happen. Yeah. So I want to go back real quick, and I know I wish that I could have a podcast episode for as long as about an hour or 2 hours, but and more importantly, I think that we're probably gonna have to do this again. We're probably gonna have to just come back and run through some more stories, because it's funny, between your stories and my stories, even when we turn these cameras off, we're probably going to still talk about different things. But you talked about earlier about how when you first joined the men's group, you were scared to talk about how you were going through a divorce, and a lot of the different things that were going on in your life. Could you expound on like maybe why that was, that you just didn't feel comfortable to open up about that as far as like with other men that you may have set beside or were on video with? Because normally with these Zoom calls, you know, you're either face to face with them on video or they hear your voice. But why was that?
Honestly, I think it's so bizarre because we join these groups to discuss the problems that we're having, but yet when we get in the group, we act like we don't have a problem. And so I think part of that is because as men, but I'll break it down even further and say as black men, we have been groomed by toxic masculinity, you know, and so we were kind of structured to believe that we don't show emotion. You keep your business to yourself. You know, what happens in this house stays in this house. You know, and then so there's that, and this sense of needing to have perfection, you know, started to creep in, and so I didn't want people to know that my marriage isn't working. You know, my marriage is supposed to work. What do you mean?
Right.
All of those things together, you know, I think bring us to that point of not wanting to open up, you know, or let me hear somebody else's story and here's a little worse than mine. Because if it is, then I don't feel so bad.
Right.
You know, and I think that's what I was listening for. And that wasn't the case. Like, yes, the brothers in a group were all talking about different things.
Right.
And I realized nobody had the same issue, you know. And to me, that said, you have a place here. Because just like this person is telling their story, it's for someone else in this group, you know.
Right.
And so on and so forth down the line. And when it gets to my turn, there is somebody in this group that is going to be able to benefit from what I'm experiencing right now.
Right.
And then there's someone else who's already been there. You know?
Right.
So they can kind of help me navigate this new terrain.
Right.
And so I remember, clear as day, I'm sitting on the phone, on this call rather, and God showed me a vision of, do you know the garden watering pots where one vessel is pouring this way into one, and then the other one's pouring it out.
Yeah, the water's going. Yeah. It's kind of like dropping in.
This is what real community looks like. This is what you need right now. Everyone is going to pour into each other, and when it gets to the bottom basin,
that's good.
We're going right back to the top, and it's going to keep going. And you're going to feel him, and then he's going to feel you, and then so on and so forth, and blah, blah, blah. And that's what it's been. And that's what I was missing, because over the past couple of years, I've done so much pouring out, and there was nothing coming back in, and now my vessel was empty, and I had nothing left. And I vowed in that moment, before I get to the point where I've poured all of me out,
right,
and I have nothing left, I'll pull back, and we'll reevaluate the situation.
Right.
And God started showing me how to place people, because the people that I thought were my community and that I thought were the pillars that I needed,
right,
weren't community, it was clutter. And so it took me moving away and experiencing all of this to realize, wow, my phone actually has not rung in months.
Right.
What happened to all of those people that were blowing me up when you needed help, when you needed a ride,
right,
when you needed to borrow money, when you needed this, when you needed that? And now here I am at this low point, and I can't even get a checkup. Hey, you just want to make sure you're okay. There was none of that. And so God started showing me what real community looks like and how intentional everybody has to be in order to keep that going.
Right.
And that's exactly what it's been. So, the brothers from this group, they reach out to me, hey, you good? Did you find a job yet? How's the house search going? Whatever the issue was, they were there checking up, offering suggestions. Hey, well, I know this person. Let me put you in contact.
Right.
Let's just go grab a bite to eat.
Right.
To take your mind off of all of that stuff. Let's just go get a bite to eat.
Right.
Talk about music or something.
But imagine if you had never said yes to it. Imagine if you had never said, you know what, I'm going to speak up now, or you know what, I'm not going to just keep what I have just held inside.
I probably would have dropped out of the group, and I don't believe the healing that has taken place would have taken place then.
Right.
I owe a great part of it to that group of fellas, and that's why this podcast is so important, because it's just another avenue to do the same thing. They're doing it through video, and you're doing it through a podcast. It is so necessary.
Right. No, I agree with you, and I appreciate that. Man, we're gonna have to do this again, dude. And I know I'm gonna have a lot of great guests that come on here, but man, look, I appreciate you coming today. I appreciate you taking the time out. This was awesome. Hey, look, and it's funny because every time I talk to you, man, I just feel like, man, look, listen to me, like you say, it's not just your story. Like, we all have a story. Every last one of us. But sometimes realizing that you have people that are walking alongside you that have their own story, but are in pouring into you and which in turn you end up being able to pour back into them and hold each other up, like you said, like pillars. It's just it's necessary. Yeah. And it starts with just saying, all right, man, you know what? It starts sometimes with being humble and saying, I'm tired of acting like I got it all together. Yeah. I don't. I'm hurting right now. And then at that moment when you're able to say, all right, I surrender, man. I can't do this on my own. At that point, that's when those people just start to come into your life. They just start to just say, don't worry about it. Right. I got you today. I'm gonna pour up. You know what? Don't worry about it. I got you today. Man. And you, like you said, it's a community, and that's exactly what I look at this as, because I know there are so many people that are watching that may feel those ways, have felt that way, have been there, are currently there, and need to know, like, you know what? It's gonna start with me sometimes humbling myself and facing the fact that I don't have it together. Yeah. I ain't figured it out. I'm tired of carrying this. The pressure on my cap right now is it's about ready to blow. Man. And in that moment, sometimes when we blow, it can look like so many different things. It can go from just having, as some people call it, a midlife crisis, to just having a whole breakdown, a whole anxiety attack, a moment where sometimes we start to blame it on so many different things. Maybe it's my job, maybe it's instead of actually addressing what the issues actually really are. Right. And it's funny because I was just looking at the other day talking about the addictions that we go to sometimes that we're just like, all right, well, yeah, I know I need to stop smoking because why? Because it's not the smoking, it's what led you to start smoking. Yes. It's what led you to start doing that, going there, making that choice. And maybe you're like, well, it's not that big of a deal. But it's not about the addiction. It's about the problem that's led you there.
Driving the addiction.
Right.
And it's like what we talked about the other night about the fig leaves. All of those issues that we're trying to cover up.
Right.
And so we're doing the same thing as Adam and Eve did. Our good old great grandparents.
Right.
They're doing what they did.
Right. Going all the way back to the founding of our trauma, of where it all started with yes.
Once they realized they were naked, or exposed, they started covering up with leaves.
Right.
You know? And so we do the same thing. We want to hide everything that we're going through, the depression, the anger, the lust, the addictions, the this, the that.
Right.
And so we cover them up with these leaves or facades because we don't want people to see it. And I think more importantly, we don't want ourselves to see it. You know, if I can convince myself that I don't see it, then surely I convince myself that you don't see it.
That's good.
And if neither one of us see it, then we can hide it from God too, right?
Right.
And that's what we try to do. And we fell miserably. And it took God blowing all of my leaves off the tree and bringing me to this point.
Leaving you out there completely naked with yourself.
Exposed, you know. And even still, even though there's so many areas that, and I think I mentioned it to you, one day God, I was sitting there and I was just replaying everything that has gone on in the past couple of months leading up to the divorce. And then the next, month or two afterwards. And God said, I was asking questions like, why? Why? Explain it to me. Tell me what your plan is.
Right.
So, and God said, I'm going to show you how to use the hurt that you're feeling to heal other areas. And that's what he did. So he used everything that I was experiencing in that moment to, number one, shed the light on again.
Right.
And now show me how to heal from it. And so, why did I act like this in a relationship? Because I was still dealing with this. And so on and so forth. And he showed me how to get healed by using the hurt. And so then I didn't look at the hurt as a bad thing.
Right. Right.
It wasn't negative anymore.
Right. It was necessary.
It was necessary. And God said, the length of time that it's going to take for you to heal depends on how quickly you learn this lesson. It doesn't have to be months. It doesn't have to be years. If I can get it right now, then I can move on from that area and on to the next one and the next one. But if I keep falling,
you can keep recycling that same pattern.
Lesson, then that it is what it is. Now the hurt turns into pain, and that's what I learned about dealing with such a intense situation and how to move on from it. So some people would say, oh, it's too soon. You can't go on a date or, and I'm just using that randomly.
Right.
But who says? You can't judge how long it takes me to heal.
Right.
You can't.
Right.
And so,
or more importantly, how people that sometimes it's funny how people will start to tell you how you can't do certain things, but it's like, well, when did you become the specialist in healing, or more importantly, are you doing your own work to be able to tell me like what's right or when it's right for me?
Right. And it's not that they've become the specialist, but they've experienced the same thing. But the problem is they never healed, and so they're still learning that lesson.
That's good.
They don't think that you can move on that quickly because they didn't move on that quickly.
Right.
But the reason they didn't move on that quickly is because they still have not learned the lesson. They're still pointing fingers.
That's good.
It wasn't me.
Right.
It was them.
Right.
It was you. And God was like, okay, I'll see you next week.
Right. What time can I piss on you for?
Bad channel.
Right. Right.
But yeah.
No, that's good.
God is... Whew.
Man,
the stuff that he's shown me, man.
Yeah, like I said, man, we could go 2 hours with this episode. We might ladies and gentlemen, we may just come back if we're wearing the same clothes. Just know that it wasn't purposeful. We just had 2 episodes in us. But no, look, hey, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you coming through today. I appreciate your stories. And I hope that everybody that is tuned in today, man, that was a treat, just like so many other treats that we're gonna have from beginning to end. I hope that you can continue to tune in and enjoy these great conversations and stories. They are going to bless so many people, and that is what this is all about, because I want you to be able to, like I said earlier, I want you to be able to not only feel God's love but see God's glory in these stories and these conversations. And so, like I said, I appreciate you joining today. Feel free to as always, subscribe, listen to past episodes, listen to future episodes, and definitely look forward to listening to guests that I have. I'm definitely gonna have him back again. It's definitely gonna happen. We've already talked about that, but I thank you all for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode. All right, be blessed.
Hey, we appreciate you listening today and hope that if you enjoyed the conversation and stories, you will subscribe and listen to past and future content. Feel free to comment, as we would love to read your comments and pray over all of our listeners. Also, please follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at God's Glory and Men's Real Stories.
We understand as men how the thought of even facing your own story and the pain and hurt that come with that is a challenging task. But we don't want you to feel like you are all alone, because you are not. God has not forgotten you or left your side, and He loves you no matter what you have done. Your healing is important to Him, and we want you to have these free resources that already exist if you're considering giving up or need someone to talk to. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number is 1-800-273-8255. If you need support but are not in crisis, consider reaching out to a warm line if you need to talk to someone. Speaking to someone on these calls is typically free and confidential and run by people who understand what it's like to struggle with mental health. Find a local number by going to warmline.org.